Hi everyone, you're watching The Art of Save Scumming, and today we're going to be doing Chaos Dwarf army compositions by popular demand. And today's focus is going to be on the Hobgoblin stack, because this is going to be an army that you're going to be recruiting well into the late campaign, and there's a couple different ways to do it. I'm going to show you one battle on one composition, but let me just see what we got going on here. So there is a trait, or not a trait, excuse me, it'll be a Tower of Czar, that gives you a temporary Hobgoblin army. That's what this looks like. So this is a temporary army. You do pay upkeep on that army. So just a heads up, but this is an example of a generic AI spawned Hobgoblin army. They got some sneaky gits, some frontline infantry, some archers, and then some cav. So as far as I'm concerned, I find the Hobgoblin Wolf Riders to be absolutely trash. I find the bow variant to be okay, maybe recruit every once in a while, but the vast majority of your troops are going to come from these three categories. So if we take a look at another composition, this is a composition that is pretty easy to build because it doesn't require a whole lot of armaments. The only units that we have in here that are not hobgoblins are our heroes, and then one blunderbuss, and we're going to cover how to use the blunderbusses in a different video, so we're not going to focus on this one. We have another composition. Let's see, where is it? Not that one, this one. And this is the one that we're actually going to be focusing on in our battle, but it's slightly different because since filming that battle, I've gotten this army a little bit beat up and I've replaced it with a couple different things. So the composition is going to look like this. We're going to have a front line of Hobgoblin cutthroats, whatever makes you comfortable, whatever you think that you can manage for your front line. We're then going to take a denomination of sneaky gits, and these are going to be our flank units. So they're going to sit on our flanks and basically soak up anything that comes in. And then our back line is going to be composed of as many archers as we can. Also, and this may cost you a little bit of extra armaments, but I prefer to have at least one magma cannon or two in this instance. Now, right off the bat, you have two war machines. You can spend them both on the magma cannon. And if I go in here to, that's the wrong button. If I go in here, you can see that I have not expanded my war machines at all. So I'm at turn 47. I'm doing pretty good with just hobgoblins at this point in time, trying to stretch them as far as I can to build my settlements up and take a lot of territory. And then as far as the heroes are concerned, you want to run your overseer for your hobgoblin armies. And the reason you want to do that is he gets extra campaign movement range, post-battle loot, and labor. But then you get this, which is minus 15% for laborers, hobgoblins, and hobgoblin wolf riders, and plus leadership. So the other thing that you can do if you have a primary hobgoblin army is you can put in Gortys Backstabber. Gortys gives you 20% upkeep on hobgoblins and experience, weapon strength, melee attack, ammunition, missile strength, missile resistance, melee defense, speed, and charge bonus. And he can also summon some. So definitely worth, if you have a primary hobgoblin army that you're doing a lot of work with, take him out of your main army. Right now, I'm finishing up with Kugath and Heltman Gorst down here. Once that happens, Gortys is coming out of this army. Astrogoth is going to get his Doom stack, and this guy's going to go into a primary hobgoblin army. Demonsmith. Pick a decent trait, whatever you care for, but I prefer to go either Hashut or Fire, and this is going to be your caster to be able to do a whole lot of damage. Then your Infernal Castellan. The Infernal Castellan is important for a couple reasons. First and foremost, this one, increasing your campaign movement range. You cannot underestimate the value of that. But then this is a passive skill, and this is going to give you extra armor piercing and explosive damage for any allies in a 35-meter range. So definitely something that you want to stack inside of a missile column. Anyway, let's go back to past tense, see how this army performs, and we're going to be going up against a whole bunch of Slayers. Let's go ahead and get started on this. Our challenges here are that this is a battle versus Dwarves Slayers. They're composed almost entirely of Slayers, and that's a problem because they are unbreakable, and we're not going to be able to rout them. To our advantage, though, this is a underway battle, and that means that they can't go super wide, so they can't tie up a whole bunch of our units. So what we're going to do is we're going to start near the back here, set up our magma cannons on an elevated position, and then we're going to take these archers and we're going to checkerboard them. The idea is that we want to create a concentrated kill zone and try to push them towards one flank. To be able to protect that flank, we're going to throw the sneaky gits on the flank to make sure that they at least have some kind of high damage dealer to mess with. You know, the sneaky gits have a missile attack that does a pretty good job of killing entities, particularly unarmored entities like Slayers. But then it also has a, they have a higher damage output than your traditional hobgoblins. Now, our traditional hobgoblins, what we're going to do with those is basically create some gaps here at the front that hopefully draw more than one Slayer unit in at a time, and we expect to take some decent casualties on those particular units. We have to keep our heroes, or at least our Lord and our caster hero, out of the fray because they are on mounts, and the Slayers have a bonus for Slarge. We're going to take that caster, and we're just going to try to harass some of these units back here. Maybe we can get pretty good value out of like the burning head on the Slayers because the Slayers don't have a whole lot of armor. Also see popping down that Flamestorm, also trying to do some damage on the Slayers. Now we have to be a little bit careful with our caster here because they do have 2 units of Quarrelers, and those Quarrelers are going to do pretty good damage to any big flying unit like that. This is going to be a little bit more of the tedious side of the battle because we have to try to get some good hits in with our casts, but the battle will speed up substantially once we get into range. Initially, we're going to allow the magma cannon to shoot whatever it wants. I put a full video out on how to properly use magma cannons. I'll have it linked in the description box if you want to go see that. But the magma cannon is really good against tight stationary formations. However, those formations will not become stationary until they get a little bit closer. The problem with targeting Slayers is that they have a pretty loose formation. So even though they're not very well armored, they're not going to collapse down as tightly as they did in my demonstration of the magma cannon video. So even though we are trading our shots pretty well using magma cannon rounds on Slayers, we eventually want to make sure that those Quarrelers are the primary target once they come into range. Because we can deal with the Slayers with our units that we have stacked up. They're pretty damaged at this point in time. They didn't start in the best situation, and we have been casting on them. So they're going to be pretty beat up by the time they get to the line, so we shouldn't have any problem just letting the melee infantry go with the archers' support. But the Quarrelers can do some substantial damage to our backlines because they have such good range, as well as missile strength, and they can just delete hobgoblin archers in no time. So we need to make sure that those units are not getting anywhere close to our lines to be able to do damage. The good thing here is that we only have 2 of them to concern ourselves with. I don't know if it's applicable in this particular battle, but I'll show you the skill. You'll notice that I lined my Castellan up towards the center. That'll allow him to continue to shoot, but he also has a passive that helps out the hobgoblin archers. So just throwing that out there, that if you put him in the center of your formation, then you can buff that checkerboard pretty substantially. And of course, the Castellan is primarily in the army for the purposes of increasing mobility, but he can also be used to target. So yeah, just throwing that out there, that there is some good value to be had from the Castellan, even though, unlike something like the Warlock Engineer that provides like extreme amounts of value for the missile units in the army, the Infernal Castellan doesn't do quite as good as the Warlock Engineer. You can see, like I was talking, if you look there, that we have those Slayers just deleted one of those frontline units, and even though they've only got a few entities left, they're doing work tying up those archers because, well, they only have to get 1 or 2 entities in there to be able to stop a unit from firing. We're gonna have those sneaky gits come in, tie up that other element of slayers, so that those other backline units can start focus firing on the ones that are in the formation. Magma Can is down to about half ammo. You can see this Quarreler's got nowhere close. And we can start using the Magma Cannons to target the Lord. If we can get the Lord the route, then we're in pretty good shape. You see there's a single Slayer there. Yeah, there we go. Finally. We're probably not going to be able to eliminate the Lord, but that hero we can probably take out. It'd be ideal to take out the Lord, but I don't think we're going to make it. And let's take a look at the results. So we lost 273 to their 599, and that's really good value considering, look at all those Slayers that we took out. That was not an easy army to go up against, particularly because those units are unbreakable. If those were just standard infantry, you'd be like, oh yeah, we got them outnumbered, this is fine. But Slayers, you can see some of those did 50 kills, 30 kills. Yeah. I mean, those are dangerous units for sure. Anyway, that's my look at the Hobgoblin trash stack. There are obviously a couple different ways that you can do this, but those are the core tenets of how to use the Hobgoblins, and you should absolutely use them because you can get really good value for them, especially because if you look at the cost of this army, it's not very expensive, especially when you compare it to something like, oh, I don't know, the stacks that I roll around with the Skaven that cost like 10,000, 15,000 per army. This is pretty freaking cheap. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, then sound off in the comment section down below, and we'll see you on another video here at The Art of Save Scumming.